Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Monday, January 23rd, 4:30 p.m. on the East, 1:30 p.m. on the West. I don't know how many days until the start of the season. That's another show. We are not here for copyright infringement. I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the show. Planned on doing the show for a couple of days, but still doing some work with mics and lights and everything else. So if you see me fiddling with some things during the show, just know it is because I am trying to get these things set up before the start of the season so we can bring you the best possible types of shows. So I'm gonna try turning up the light a little bit and see if I don't blind myself by doing that. Oh wow, what do you know? That's better. 75%, not 60%. That's what I need to have the lights on at 75%. You can help us out here on the channel by subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Uh, Ohio Bookseller says it sounds a little low. Problem is, I can't eat the mic. I've got the microphone right here. I can't eat the mic. I'm still working on that, but I appreciate the feedback with it. I just can't get it right up here on top of me and produce the show. I will talk louder. How about that? I will talk louder at this point. Let me try. Let me try turning up. Let me try turning up this settings here. Let me know if that helps. One, two, three. Let me know if that helps. I think I've got this thing pegged all the way out. We've got it online. Everything seems to be right. Let me power, see if that helps as well. So Chadwick Moran says it sounds good to him. John says hello. I'll try and punch in some things as I can. Ohio Bookseller says it sounds better. Again, we are still working on getting these settings. Now, wouldn't it be easier just for you to go work in your office upstairs? Yes. Yes, it would. But here I am, sitting at the kitchen table. Why? I'm an idiot. I don't know. I don't know. But glad everybody is here to join us on this edition of the Big Me Kickoff. I hope everybody had a chance to check out on YouTube the piece that I posted over on YouTube from Buc-ee's, the wrapping up from our Southern Swing trip. I had an opportunity to go through and show people some of the other things we know about the beef jerky. We know about the brisket tacos. We know about, of course, one of the most delicious snacks in the world, the beaver nuggets. But did you know there is a world of other merchandise at Buc-ee's? So we went through and checked out a lot of that stuff. I meant to have the Buc-ee's beaver nugget pillow with me for this show, but I got set up a little too late and did not have an opportunity to, yeah, Chadwick asking where is the pillow. I did not have an opportunity to run upstairs to go grab that out of the bedroom. It's coming. I promise. I still have it. I still have a lot of these other things. Yes, Troy V says, Kevin, Buc-ee's Noon. We will throw that up right there. I do love me some Buc-ee's. What did I spend the last 20 minutes prior to the show doing? Looking for PR contacts at Buc-ee's. Would love to get them on board as a sponsor of some sort. Of course, Buc-ee's opening up in Ohio, outside of Huber Heights, near Dayton, spring of 2026. So inside of a year. We know sometimes these things take a little bit longer. It is what it is. We do have some time in Ohio where if you don't have the structure built before the bad weather moves in, you do run into a bit of a brick wall. But it seems like I think they'll be ready. I don't have any idea of a date, but you better believe we're going to try to be there when that opens. Of course, it would probably happen while we're on the Southern Swing, because that's just how things work. Nothing is easy, nothing is smooth, nothing goes the way you think it would. Sort of like recruiting. Ohio State recruiting has, I think the class has come together nicely. There's a lot of people though that are having bad feelings right now that the class is not there with USC and Notre Dame. USC, something like 648 recruits in that class. Notre Dame has a pretty full class as well. Ohio State, with all the talk of Ohio State or the NC2A going to 105 scholarships and everything else, that doesn't mean you're going to fund them. Because you have to pay for these scholarships. You got to be. If you're putting guys on scholarship, you've got to be able to fund it. So with the $22.5 million that the new House settlement gets, 18 million of it going toward NIL. like 20 and a, I guess 20 and a half million. I mean, and 18 million going there, 2.5 going towards scholarships. You have to be creative there. So, I mean, Ohio State may not get out there and land everybody. We'll talk a little bit about recruiting. I'm going to be the first to admit I've been incredibly busy over the last couple of days, have not had the opportunity to really do a deep dive. If you want to get that deep dive, sign up for BuckeyeHuddle.com. Join our team of experts, Tom, Tony, and myself, covering the team. Mark and Jeremy Birmingham covering recruiting. Andrew Ellis really holding everything together, doing a lot of everything. And then our team of experts led by Ross Fulton, Mike Pettit, Devin Ratcliffe, Justin Whitlatch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it is a constantly, growing cast of characters that we have over at the Huddle. So check us out. You want to be in position before the season starts. We're like a month away from Big Ten football media days. A month. Can you believe that? I'm not sure if it's to the day, but I know around now is about the time that it would be getting started. Las Vegas. Now, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to be able to hit the tables. We might have to throw in some super chats for that, and I have a feeling that we probably have things that the super chats can go toward in a better way than my bad blackjack playing. But that's one way that you certainly could help us out. But signing up for the website, far and away the most productive way that you can help us out, and the biggest way you can benefit yourselves by getting all the stuff that we keep behind the paywall. Believe it or not, we do keep a lot of stuff behind the paywall. We love to talk to our members out here on the podcasting platforms, but we got to eat too. And that means we got to keep some stuff behind the paywall, so there's a reason to sign up. So sign up, check us out, say hi to me, say, hey, Kevin, I'm from the podcast. I wanted to give you guys a look. Reach out to me. I'd really appreciate that. That would mean the world to me. Now, with this being a live show, I've not necessarily prepared a lot in advance. I spent all of my preparation time doing that piece on Buc-ee's. And, for me, I think it was probably just more cathartic than anything, spending 4 hours on Sunday going through and editing all of these pieces, putting all of it together. I had a really nice trip down memory lane with some of the things that that I put in there in terms of drops and things of that nature. So check it out if you haven't had a chance. Not now, not during the show. Got you here. Don't want to leave you. I don't want you to leave me. You can check it out afterwards. But, probably one of the favorite pieces that I put together. Those in Hungry Hungry Huddles are by far my favorite. We haven't done a Hungry Hungry Huddle in a minute. It's difficult sometimes because we want to have Tom, Tony, and myself as the core group together, and with it being kind of quote unquote the off season. I didn't say the slow season, just the off season. It makes it difficult at times for us all to be in the same place. It's not necessarily the president and the vice president can't travel together. Continuation of government. We're just all kind of running in our own direction. So. We'll get to some of these. I know that we have our sponsor with a Great Griddle. We've been meaning to do something with the food truck, but I don't run the show. I don't. I like to think I do, but I don't run the show. I don't make the schedules. People have lives. Just because I have no life doesn't mean other people have to hang out in the gutter with me with no life. I'm just happen to have no life. So you get more of me because I have no life. How's that sound? But I'm not complaining. I mean, maybe when the camera's off, I'll complain, but I'm not complaining right now. So, what are your thoughts on the upcoming season? Who's gotten the magazine so far? The Phil Steele magazine. I got mine, I guess, a week ago, maybe a little less than a week ago. I've not even had a chance to crack it open. I've got Lindy's. I've got Athlon. I've had a chance to look at the other two. I haven't really gotten into it. Seeing Ohio State anywhere from 3 to 7 in the preseason, according to a lot of these magazines. Now, obviously, preseason rankings aren't worth a hill of beans. They're not worth anything. So, don't fall in love with them and say, well, that's what's going to happen. Because if you were to really buy into them, it probably means that Penn State would get one over on Ohio State. We know that James Franklin is not capable of doing that without a severe mess up on Ohio State's part. Urban Meyer, in one of those most inexplicable ways, found a way to kind of screw things up in Happy Valley several years ago, not taking a timeout, running the kicker out there, getting the kick blocked, return for a touchdown, and Ohio State still Almost came back to win the game. Still, almost came back to win the game. I think if a game was being called the same way in the first, in the last minute and a half of the game as it is in the first minute and a half of a game, Ohio State probably gets the benefit of a penalty call that gets Ohio State into closer position, at least for a chance to tie it. But that wasn't meant to be. But other than that, Penn State's had no success against Ohio State. Now, that doesn't mean that Penn State hasn't had Ohio State on the ropes. Penn State has absolutely had Ohio State on the ropes a couple of times. JT Barrett with one of the best quarters of football I've ever seen. Certainly the best quarter of football I ever saw to JT Barrett in Columbus when they were wearing the gray uniforms, gray tops, gray pants, hitting Marcus Baugh on the eventual game-winning touchdown. That was a big one. But Ohio State also did that on the road. I guess that would have been the year prior, if I remember right. But those were also years that Ohio State dropped games to Purdue and to Iowa. So sometimes you run into problems when you have to sit there and come roaring back. We got a couple of comments. John is asking, who do I think will start? He believes that Julian Sayin will start, and then says that it will be Sayin or St. Clair. I do not believe it will be St. Clair. Not day one. St. Clair has all the talent in the world, but he is still a true freshman. And you don't know what you don't know at that point. And the reality is that as much as everybody's in love with Arch Manning, he did not win out the starting job there either as a true freshman. I mean, you can sit there and look at generational type of quarterbacks, and if you're playing as a true freshman, is that more of a case of that you are just that awesome, or that your team doesn't have any other options? And I tend to believe it's the latter, because you would like to have your true freshmen have a little bit more of an opportunity to get seasoned, to be able to learn the playbook, to be able to understand the difference in the speed of the game and things of that nature. So, with that being said, I don't know if Julian Sayin is out there starting a game, especially in the first half of the season, that's not a good thing. It's a good thing that's a good thing for, I'm sorry, for St. Clair. That's a good thing for St. Clair. I mean, it means he's getting experience, but are you going to win a national championship trotting out a true freshman quarterback week 3 of the season? The answer is no, in my opinion. The answer really is no. So it's going to be Sayin. Lincoln Keynote certainly has an opportunity. I'm not here to say that he has zero shot of getting it, but by all accounts, I believe it's going to be Sayin. I think that coming out of spring, everything was very close. I think that there's not a huge amount of difference between the two of them in terms of maybe what some of the results were. I think each of them have their skill set. They're not the same quarterback. They do some things differently. But we don't have a ton of hard data to be able to run on. We've seen Julian Sayin throw a touchdown in garbage time. We've seen Lincoln Keynotes play a little bit. He certainly got thrust into that Missouri game, but you need to throw that game out the window. That game shouldn't count for anything, because there was just no. They put all of their time in getting Devin Brown ready for that game, and then Devin Brown gets hurt, and then it's just like ooh. And Ohio State still was in position for 3 quarters to win the game. For 3 quarters, Missouri had 0 points, and then the dam finally broke in the 4th quarter, and it kind of got out of hand. And and that was certainly probably one of the lower moments that I can remember. Maybe not as low due to the circumstances as everybody was last season after the final regular season home game and what happened in that game. But my money is on Sayin, but there are no prop bets. There are no player prop bets on college players in Ohio, so I don't have to worry about putting my money where my mouth is. Buc-ee Sean says, Athlons is the best of the bunch. Steele has our quarterback room 47th in the country. That kind of negates anything else he has to say. Steele's magazine is the best. There are some outlying stats, numbers that come out. I have Tony Gerdeman posted from the early digital version some of the numbers over from Steele, but I didn't really process them. Until I have the magazine in my hands and it's upstairs, probably next to the Buc-ee's pillow, so I can't reference it right now at this point. As I'm sitting here trying to figure out a better way, I don't like the mic where it is. I don't feel like I can get up on the computer. So, it is what it is. We'll probably next time I do a live show, I'll probably have yet a different configuration, or I need to get a mic arm. Is really what it is. I just need to get a mic arm and get it up and away from me, but close enough that you can hear me. Because as Ohio Bookseller put, if it's too low, that's a problem. But I think Athlon and Lindy's both farm too much stuff out, and in some ways you can say, well, farming it out isn't a bad thing because they're talking to people who potentially actually know these players. I mean, not know them personally, but know of them a lot better. But I also think that sometimes when you are dealing with too big of a pool of writers, everybody's kind of got their own biases. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing. But then again, if you don't like something on Phil Steele, it's very easy to say, well, that whole thing is bunk. Everything from page 1 to page 365. It's all trash. I don't know if I'm buying that either. I get what Buckeye Sean 007 is saying. It's kind of hard to swallow that, but let me play the contrarian here. You got a quarterback room that has like zero experience. Like zero experience. Like the only experience that they have really at the collegiate level of more than just garbage time is Eli Brookhandler that they brought in from Houston Christian or whatever that school's called at this point. It was Houston Baptist. Then I think it was Houston Christian. Maybe it's got a different name now. I don't even know. I can't keep track of some of those types of things. But you you don't know what you don't know. I mean, and if you are, what are your criteria? What are the criteria that you're basing things on? Are you basing things on what we know, or what we think, or what we hope? And you can't sit there and say, well, we're gonna judge 127 teams on what we know, on experience, what we've seen, hard data, and then we're going to judge the other 6 teams, 8 teams, whatever. I don't even know. It used to be 133 FBS teams. I think it's getting closer to 140 now. Uh, we're going to base them on what we think it could be. I mean, you have no uniformity in your data when you do that. And I'm not a data analytics person. I mean, I didn't study it in college. I don't. I'm sure. I'm sure there was data analytics types of coursework, but not necessarily in sports. When I was a student at Ohio State, back when we were chariot racing and you know rolling the first stone wheels around, but I don't have as much of a problem with that. I'm not going to let one data point ruin the magazine for me. And I'm not saying that Sean is saying that he's going to just like, throw his copy away. Oh, damn magazine's expensive. I'm not throwing it away in the first place. But you sit there and you kind of take the good with the bad, and you just kind of have to figure it out at that point. So that's my thought there. Let me just keep scrolling through here. Steve says not buying the Penn State hype. They still have the same coach and quarterback. I mean, I like Drew Allard better than I like James Franklin in these types of situations. And I think it's because I have seen less Drew Allard in these situations. I've seen a ton. I've seen a ton of James Franklin. I've seen a ton of, it not working against Ohio State and not working against the team up north. I mean, his record there, he's very Cooper-like in terms of, very John Cooper-like in terms of his record. And, I think the thing, though, that's more galling is that when you go back to John Cooper and the team up north, is John Cooper had teams that on several of those years were like markedly better than the team up north. I don't know how many times with James Franklin I'd say that Penn State was like, 5% or 25% or 35% better than Ohio State. So sometimes the Jimmies and the Joes matter, but I think you can go back to one of the last images that we have of Drew Allard and the interception against Notre Dame. And to Steve's point, that's very fair. You sit there and you look at that, it's like, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to win the big game. He didn't there. Penn State had a sweetheart draw to get to the finals. SMU, Boise State, and then Notre Dame. And I guess Notre Dame proved to be better than we thought Notre Dame would have been by result of getting to the finals. But Notre Dame lucked out that Georgia had imploded by that point. Carson Beck was hurt, but he couldn't throw. Gunnar Stockton couldn't throw. They didn't really have any receivers. They couldn't run the ball. So yes, in the record books, it's always going to show a win over Georgia in that round of the playoffs, but it doesn't necessarily say, you don't have context, and context matters, and you don't have the context that it wasn't necessarily the cleanest of wins in terms of playing Georgia. You're not playing anybody at 100% in December or in January. You're just not. But that Georgia team was extremely flawed, even coming out of the box in September. And it was even more flawed by the time we got to the game itself. We have a follow-up here. Penn State overhyped all the way around. Drew Aller, highest rated quarterback in the video game, supposedly the best QB room in the country. All these great transfer wide receivers, I'm not really seeing it. Now, we're not talking about a case of them bringing over Julian Fleming from Ohio State. Certainly, obviously, prayers still out to Julian Fleming and the situation that he went through and everything else around that. But until I see that unit work together, I mean, the only room that I'm going to say that Penn State really deserves to be in the top whatever is the running back room, and that's with Singleton and with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Outside of that, Drew Aller, leads the hype machine. Is Drew Aller better than Arch Manning? Probably not. Not to this point. Aller at least has experience that Manning does not, being the understudy most of the way to Quinn Ewers. But, I don't know. I mean, certainly, all right, you go out and you get all these great transfer wide receivers. They went out and they got, Tinsley from Western Kentucky, and he didn't do anything. They got in previous years, they went out and got Quintez Cephas from Kent State. He didn't do anything. I'm not necessarily on the transfer bandwagon of saying anybody's done anything, because we've not seen these guys compete at the highest of levels. So, Caleb Downs was a little bit of a different situation. Caleb Downs obviously was a all SEC performer as a true freshman. You knew what you were getting there, but it was not a case of where he had to kind of take over a game. Safety is different than wide receiver, and yeah, okay, you're going to have 2-3 wide receivers out there at various points. If Penn State goes empty with no running backs on the field, James Franklin should probably be arrested at that point. But I'm not here to. Well, I am here to judge, but I'm not here to judge that one at this point. So I don't know. I think that it's kind of everybody thinks it's Penn State's turn, because spoiler alert, it's not their turn. You just because you bring back a lot of players doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out. I mean, Ohio State in 2015 was the most talented team in the nation, and just bleep didn't work out. The Zeke Elliott injury, whether or not whatever was going on at that point, 10 years out, I'm not necessarily going to try and relitigate that, but I think there was some malpractice in that Michigan State game with how things went down, raining sideways, losing on a long field goal. I mean, that was just bad news. That was just bad news at that point. But I just don't. I'm not buying. I'm not buying Penn State. I'm not buying Penn State at all. That doesn't mean that I think Penn State's going to go 8-4. I think Penn State is still a pretty good team. I still think Penn State is going to be. I'm pretty sure Penn State's going to be in the college football playoff. Is Penn State going to beat Ohio State? Probably not. Game's in Columbus. It's late enough that Ohio State's going to figure some things out. So even if Ohio State trips up against Texas, that doesn't mean that you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes. I don't know Penn State's schedule off the top of my head, but 10-2. I mean, obviously that's good enough to get you in the playoff, and then you have to sit there And I'm going to be going in order. But here you got John saying they have talented receivers. Great. If you can't get them the ball, if Drew Allard gets the yips and can't get them the ball, it doesn't matter. Wide receivers at Penn State seem to just go backward. I'm not saying running backward, I'm saying develop backward. So talented in 24 at previous locations versus talented in 25 at Penn State are two wholly different things. So I don't know if I'm buying it. I don't know if I'm buying it whatsoever. Now, there are certainly players out there that you could put on a team and they're going to be talented wherever they go. Jeremiah Smith would probably look really good wherever he was at. But you have to get him the ball. You can have like the biggest catch radius as a wide receiver, but that doesn't mean that if you're running, a 14-yard pattern and the quarterback throws it 11, I don't care how big your radius is. You're not catching it. If you're 6'3" and the quarterback throws it to where only a 9'4" guy is going to be able to catch it, I don't care. I don't care how good you are. So the jury is out. The jury is out on Penn State. It sounds like there are jurors on the panel in here that are willing to find Penn State guilty of being good at wide receiver. I'm not so sure. At this point, it's still kind of a no contest. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Let me see where we were at. We'll keep going. They're going to be. I'm going to say this in all seriousness, and I've not seen anybody make any comments or whatever. I'm going to really stick to Ohio State football and what is going on with the team right now. While there's other news out there in the world, it's not for me to get into. So, please kind of respect the decision I've made. I'm not going to get into any of that other type of unfortunate news. I certainly have made a comment about it or three on the board, all very respectful of the situation and the difficulty of the nature of everything, but it's not something I want to engage on. And I ask that you kind of respect that too in terms of the chat, and we just not get into it because that's just not. It's not my place to talk about it. It's not my place to talk about it. Philip Buford says, "Good day, Kevin and crew. How are you doing, Philip? I hope you are having a wonderful day here on a Monday. It is 3 minutes until quitting time on the East. If you're fortunate enough to have a 9 to 5 job, if you're on the West, sorry, it's 2 o'clock. And as for me, always working. I just don't know. I don't know when my damn day is off." John says they should have made the game against Texas at night, but they didn't, and that is what it is. It is what it is. If you want that big check, you got to sit there and deal with what the TV deal is. And the TV deal says that the best games in the Big Ten almost always are going to be in that noon Eastern slot. Period. Now, if the best game in the Big Ten ends up being USC Oregon, well, that would be 9 a.m. Pacific. I think there's going to be a special dispensation at that point. Texas at no point had to agree to move the game to Sunday or Monday. Now, the cockamamie excuse that Sark gave about their next game against Austin Westlake High School or whoever the hell it is are playing, we're not idiots. You just don't want to sit there and. Do you want to play in the toughest environment possible in this situation or a lot less difficult environment? Well, gee, let me think about that one. I mean, it's pretty obvious that you're not going to want to sit there and play in the toughest environment, but just be like, we just didn't, that was not the time that was agreed upon, and college football's for Saturdays, and we're cool with that. Don't sit there and say, well, we're going to get a short week against whoever the hell it is. I hate that stuff. I hate it. I hate it when coaches and administrators and whatever treat us like we're all idiots. We can see right through it. We all know, and I'm sure the coaches and administrators know it, but don't continue the charade, or if you're fancy, the charade. Don't continue that. Just get on with it and be like, well, we're just not going to do it. And the worst part is that next year Ohio State is going to play Texas at night. because the ABC ESPN deal puts a value on that night block. And it's absolutely going to be a night game. There, I mean, nobody should even be like, well, I'm holding out hope. Don't. It's going to be a night game. So you're not even going to be able to go party on 6th Street or 7th Street. 6th used to be the big street. I'm hearing there's more stuff on 7th now. Nobody's going to be able to go out and party that night until because the game's going to go pretty late. Now, of course, the nice thing is that Central Time, so you will get an hour back, but that's going to be a night game. It's going to be a night game. Thank you, Doreen, for reposting the stream. We really appreciate it. Doreen, always a great friend of the site. Here we go. Cam, what's going on with offensive tackle Aaron Thomas? They predicted him to A&M. They, as in who? I mean, I know that Blair Angulo did, and Blair's pretty good at his job. Things happen. Everybody else has got helmets and shoulder pads and scholarships and everything else, and it's on you to try and land kids, and you're not always going to land them. And it is what it is. And nothing. I don't think anything is done on that one. I've been on the show for a half hour, so I don't know what is going on. You sit there and you kind of get you get a little tunnel visioned at some points because you're focused on trying to make sure you got lights and video and audio and everything else going on. But Ohio State, I think Ohio State is in very good shape with its future with Tyler Bowen at offensive line coach. We just saw a flurry of 27 offers go out. I don't think we're going to see a case of where Ohio State is going to offer 9 linemen to try and land 4 of them. It always felt like Ohio State was kind of in that position. Now, Ohio State certainly was benefited in 26. And remember, we're talking class of 26. These are the rising seniors. This is the class that's taking visits, official visits right now. So I don't think like I'm having a stroke and I'm talking about the wrong year or anything like that. No, these are 2026 guys. So, we're gonna, we'll kind of just continue to go from there with that. But I think they're going to be fine. Obviously, it sucks to lose out on somebody. There's certainly, names that people felt good about 4 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago that seem to be going elsewhere. But stuff happens. I'll mention another offensive lineman, Drew Evers, out of the state of Texas. I was talking to a source about 45 minutes before the show, and while I still believe it's an Ohio State Texas A&M battle, and remember, both of his parents went to A&M, so A&M is going to be tough to beat, but I've liked Ohio State. Don't sleep on SMU. I think SMU has really done a good job as well in terms of being able to recruit him. So it seems so easy at times. And certainly for wide receiver recruiting, it's been really so easy for Ohio State to land all these kids, but it takes a lot of effort. And not only does it take effort to land them, it takes a lot of effort to keep them. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be disappointed when Ohio State doesn't land a kid, and that doesn't mean that you're not well within your right. Who am I, Captain Internet? I'm not here to tell you what to think. I am. You just won't listen to me. But sure, I'd love to tell you what to think. But things happen. But I think that's why when you sit there and you look at situations of like what Brian Hartline's been able to do, what Tim Walton's been able to do, Keenan Bailey is starting to come up and become that type of guy. I think we're starting to see some of that out of James Laurinaitis. This is far and away Ohio State's best recruiting coaching staff that I've seen. Now, there's going to be debate on where Larry Johnson is. Larry Johnson is always going to be considered the GOAT in terms of development. But is he the GOAT in terms of recruiting? I have a lot of data. That I can sit there and say that has been slipping. That has been slipping for sure. But you sit there and you still look at some of the names that they've gone. You look at, they go out into the West Coast and land a big one who I think is going to be a big steal when it's all said and done. But I think that might be one of the weak points in terms of where Ohio State is, and it's not that Larry has necessarily completely lost his fastball. I just think that hitters have adjusted. I think hitters have adjusted and know the movement on his fastball, and I think that the other thing is that we don't know what we don't know. Yes, NIL is still relatively new, and we're starting to see a lot of changes and everything else with how those things are. But what do things look like in light of the House settlement? What do things look like there? And Ohio State is always a touch slow in going and hitting the accelerator and saying it's time to go with these changes. I think Ohio State is maybe a little cautious. I think Ohio State really kind of wants to make sure that it has a firm grasp on things. And no, I think you're not going to see Ohio State go out there and have the same approach of a Miami, Florida, or USC, or some of these other programs. And it's going to cause some frustration. I think it's going to cause some frustration with people, but Ohio State, outside of maybe being stuck with some coaches in the past that have not been the strongest recruiters, I think that Ohio State is going to adjust just fine to this once it understands what the House settlement. I mean, the House settlement has been put up, and we had the meeting with Ross Bjork, and we know, the 20.5 number and the 18 and everything else. We know all of that stuff. But what does stuff look like in execution? How do you handle getting NIL deals through whatever that is, NIL Go or whatever that situation is? How do you go about that, and what does that look like? And I think that there's going to have to be a little bit of a learning process. And I don't know. I wish I had better news, but I don't know. John wants to know, how do you think the defense will do under Matt Patricia? Well, I mean, I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to look at the years that he was in Detroit as the head coach and say vis-a-vis that's what's going to happen. Ohio State's defensive room is pretty good. I mean, I do question depth in some positions, but they've got some studs. He's probably, when you look at Ohio State's defensive players compared to the mean and to the top of college football, he's in a lot better shape than he was at Detroit as a head coach, not as the DC, but as the head coach. So his time was split of where the Lions were compared to the mean and to the top of the National Football League. And that's not taking anything away from some of the top players that the Lions had, but I think that, when you look at it in totality, I think he's in a better position here than he's been anywhere since maybe, his best years in New England. Now, things could change. We don't know what we don't know. But we could be having a conversation here in, what is this? So this is 6:23. We could be having a conversation 5 months from now, leading into the Team Up North game, and Ohio State could be sitting 11-0, and the defense could be top three in all the major statistical categories. And I'll be like, John, who hopefully will be a member at Buckeye Huddle if he's not by then, and watching us on the YouTube channel, be like, remember when you brought that question up? Well, I think you have your answer now. But we also know that with like Jim Knowles, it took 3 years for the defense really to round into shape. And some of that was personnel. I think that Ohio State certainly had more deficiencies in certain spots now, but I think part of it too was just scheme. And I don't think we're going to see Matt Patricia really trying to reinvent the wheel in a lot of ways. So I think we could see Ohio State maybe take a more immediate step than what we saw last time around. That's my belief. Time will tell. Let's just keep going here. Let's keep going here. Troy V picking up on my comment about a 9'4" receiver. Imagine guarding a 9'4" guy. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know if like Matumbo or Manute Bull or somebody like that. Oh my God, if Manute Bull was out there running around trying to flip his hips and things like that as a defensive back, he might just snap into like a million pieces. It would probably be terrible. It would be terrifying. Everybody talks about, oh, I'm here to see the crazy thing, but I mean, I legitimately fear for what would happen to a Manute Bol or somebody like that. Now, you give me a tall, like 7'7" type player who actually is a little more filled out, but Manute Bol's legs were like pinkies. I mean, being 7'7" and 210, I don't think it was 210, but 7'7" and 210. I mean, I'm 6'2" and a half on the best of days. I used to be 6'3" until the world beat me down, and I'm not 210. I'm about 265 to 275, depending on the day. Today is closer to 265, so I was going to just stick it and say 265, but people know better. People know better. Mika Hanna, how you doing, Mika? Looking good, buddy. Looking good too, Mika. I mean, granted, I don't get to see you, on my show, but Mika does a show periodically. I don't know what the schedule is there, but check her out on her show as well. Let's just see here. Florida Buckeye thoughts on the OVs this weekend. I'm really going to defer to Jeremy Birmingham, Berm, affectionately, and what he posted on the huddle board. I don't want to put too much out there outside of the paywall. I don't want to recite everything that Berm posted behind the paywall because I would just be scooping myself. I'd be scooping the website where I work. Um, I'm surprised that maybe there wasn't something more immediate that came out of it. But again, I was out of circulation for a week and things change. If you're not on top of recruiting every single minute, things change on you. So, I don't know. I'm the first one to admit when I don't know something. And I think in that instance, I didn't really know anything. So I'm going to defer on that one. And now, if you're not a member, why the hell not? Check us out at buckeyehuddle.com. You've heard the spiel. Until everybody signs up, you're going to have to hear it twice a show, maybe even 3 times a show. Join Tom, Tony, myself as we cover the team, Big Ten Media Days in about a month. Mark and Berm covering recruiting. Andrew, also affectionately known as Teddy Heisman, handling all sorts of other things, message boards. And then, of course, we got our X's and O's team led by Ross Fulton and so many others who do all the great coverage there. And the huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Columbus, my favorite steakhouse in town. Then again, I just love a good steak, but Jeff Ruby, Chef's Kiss, they do a great job. So check us out there. Lots of reports on there. I do not want to. I don't want to sit there and put the stuff that Jeremy has been writing out there and have it just outside the paywall. You check us out there. Mika Hanna flexing on us, talking about Perez getting offered, and that one is just that's getting taken care of here shortly, in my opinion. That's just once that offer came in, and credit to Ronaldo, he worked his ass off. He really really busted his ass, and I'm happy for him. I don't necessarily get into a rooting standpoint when it comes to a lot of these things because if you start rooting too much, it's hard to be objective. But Terry McLaurin was somebody that had to go and catch 500 passes a day, and like his mom was having to throw it to him and things like that. I always want to see, I'm always a big fan of the kids who go out and have to earn it. So, a lot of kudos to Perez. Let's just keep going here. Uh, John with the understatement of the year that Ohio State really needs to beat. I mean, not B, I'm hoping, but beat. Yeah, here it is, the corrected version. Beat Michigan this year. Your lips to God's ears, I would say, when it comes to where Ohio State fans are on that one. We'll do lots of shows on that one. I'm not going to belabor that point right now because I'm still trying to get caught up on my chats and everything else. I'm trying to keep the show at about an hour. Um, Again, as you know, I was out for about a week. Unfortunately, not vacation. Here at a later point, I will kind of explain what was going on there. Yeah, I'm feeling better, so you can kind of take it for what it's worth. Is what I'm insinuating. I was not feeling my best, so that's what happened. I was gone for a week. Doug Shepard, Ohio State is approaching NIL responsibly and the right way. Throwing money at high school talent is goofy and hasn't produced a title for any team that does. Doug's not wrong. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily going to hold true year to year to year to year, but that's Texas A&M year one when it broke the bank and then everybody and their uncle walked from that team. We've seen cases of where checks aren't clearing, it doesn't look like, and everything else. I mean, the whole thing is still a very, very messy situation. Very, very messy. I don't necessarily have a great answer when it comes to all of that, but I do agree largely with what Doug said there. Scream it from the mountaintops. Scream it from the mountaintops. Mozart's Ghost wants to know where Mika's show is. Here we go. Yeah, Buckeye Boys and the Ohio Podcast, both. I mean, Mika, great people. Mika, you better be posting more on the board. I know that we're trying to get your account, something with your account settled. I haven't seen you post there much, Maybe you've been taking a break in terms of posting, but I will come out there and give you a stern talking to if you're not currently subscribed to the huddle right now. Let me just go through here and hey, Buck CC is joining. Thank you so much, Buck CC. That means the world to me. I'm really a big fan of when that happens. That is awesome. Be sure to say hello to me. You'll be able to figure out who I am on the board. I believe my board name is Kevin Noon, so that's not that difficult to be able to do that. I'm going to repeat something I said earlier. There's certain aspects that are not necessarily directly Ohio State related that I'm not going to speak on at this point. Um, I'm sure you can understand the reasons there. It's just best that, you know, I don't need to be another voice. I don't need to be another voice in that whole situation. So thanks for understanding. Oh, hello. I don't know why the camera moved. Get back here. I have this new camera that's on a gimbal. I think it's because I moved my hand. And that sometimes is what's going to get the camera. Let's see if it'll follow me there. All right, there we go. New equipment, new equipment. Just the joys of getting all of that taken care of. Mozart's Ghost, Buckeye huddle boards are great. Took me too long to find them. I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, there's a time where there are just some people that are like, I don't know if I'm going to sign up for a website or whatever. But if you're sitting here already watching us on YouTube or Facebook or X or wherever, listening on your drive home, to the recorded version, whatever, you're already 80% of the way there. Why the hell not? Why the hell not to get on board? So, that's great. And Buck CC says yes to Mozart. John, our Facebook poster, how's my day going? My day's going fine. I'm assuming that's to me and not to like Mika or somebody else. Had to run around, excuse me, run around, ran to the store, had to pick up a couple of items. I have leftover pizza I think I'm going to have. I've got a steak that I want to cook, but I've just not gotten around to it yet. Maybe tomorrow. I seem to have something like every 2 hours today, and that was a royal pain in the butt because in doing so, I never really was able to. I was never able to really get into any one project long enough, and that was frustrating. But I think one of the biggest things that I was looking forward to was talking to all of my friends, all of my brothers and sisters out there here on the Big Me Kickoff. It's something I enjoy doing. Why don't you do it more often, Kevin? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I don't do the show more often. There are times where it's just too complicated in terms of things going on and being at OSU, but we're in June and in July. I work from home. May as well do it a little bit more. So we'll see. We'll give that a shot. Signa Yog, dabbling in any bets until football. What is left besides baseball? I mean, the NHL draft is on Friday, but I don't follow the Quebec Major Juniors and college hockey closely enough to be able to really know anything beyond the top couple of picks, whether it's a two-man draft or four-man draft or whatever it is. And even this year, I followed it even less. You can always bet on the W. I mean, how many me bounds will Angel Reese have? How many people will sit there and be angry at former Buckeye J.C. Sheldon for mixing it up with Caitlin Clark? I mean, there obviously was already history between J.C. being at Ohio State and Caitlin being at Iowa. Everybody acting like that J.C. Sheldon is some sort of goon, like she's Ty Domi or something like that. Rafi Torres. It's just ridiculous. But you got that. You got auto racing. You got so you got NASCAR. You got F1. You got Indy. I do okay betting on NASCAR, but I haven't here recently because the race has been on Prime, on Amazon Prime, and I don't have the channel at the moment, so I'm not watching them. So I'm not going to watch something that I can't do a little bit of due diligence for. So if I were going to focus on anything, I would be doing a lot of nerfy bets, some baseball, no runs first inning. I've done a couple of home run bets on Shohei Ohtani as well, and I'm picking him on the days he doesn't hit one, and I'm not picking him on days that he does hit one. So I think I'm going to take a break from that one. I only think I have like $50 in my wallets between three books. So I'm kind of taking it slow. But let me throw out a free plug. I'm not even doing anything with this group right now, but check out wagerwire.com over on the Apple App Store as well as the Google Play Store. You can track all of your bets. You can sign up for books through WagerWire to be able to get the bonuses there and be able to see where all of your action is. Now, there are going to be a book or two that may not work in your state that you're not going to be able to get there, but WagerWire is a really exciting app. Check it out. I'm still friends with everybody over there. Just kind of taking a break right now with them. Here we go. Agreed with NHL. I don't follow draft details. CBJ offseason. Hopefully they make some moves. They're cursed. They're cursed. I mean, I'm not going to ever be a CBJ fan. I'm just not. I'm sorry. Yes, I live here. I've lived here a long time. But you know what? I was a hockey fan before I ever lived in Columbus. I'm a Blackhawks fan. I'm not going to change because of where I move. I'm just not. But, I want hockey to be successful. So I would like to see some things go well for them. John says, I've always been a Buckeye fan. That's great. What was the first game you remember seeing? I throw that question out to everybody. What was the first Ohio State football game of consequence that you really remember closely? That, is like, oh, I remember that game. I certainly remember my first couple of games that I watched, but I didn't grow up as a big college football fan. I grew up more of baseball was my first love, and then it was NFL. So I mean, I certainly remember NFL games prior to watching. I remember NFL games going back to like 1980 when I was 9. But for college, I certainly remember other college games, but I didn't really start watching Ohio State until I decided I was going to go to Ohio State, quite honestly. So it would have been like 88. I would think 88-ish, maybe, I was a freshman in 89. So, I mean, I certainly saw a couple Ohio State games before there, but I was going to go to Pepperdine. That's where I was going to go to school. I was set to go to Pepperdine. But Kevin, they don't have football. Yeah, but have you ever seen that campus? Have you ever seen the Pepperdine campus? I could watch another team from afar and go to the beach every day. But I digress. I digress. Um, Kevin, how do you feel about hot dogs? I'm a Hebrew National guy. I like Ballpark Franks. Hebrew National is good. Nathan's is good. I have a pack of hot dogs in the fridge right now. I'm not going to jump up and go get them. I don't need to. I'm not Carrot Top. I'm not a prop comic, but you know, I, I'm less likely to go out and just get the best deal on hot dogs. I want to get a hot dog that is probably a little bit better in quality. Granted, whenever you go to like a street vendor or you go, hell, even to the ballpark, I think a lot of times, who knows what the hell you're getting. You just have to suspend reality for a minute when you order a hot dog. Don't think about all the lips and buttholes that are in the hot dog. Just enjoy the hot dog. Mustard, onion. That's it. Unless I'm doing a chili dog. And then if I'm doing a chili dog, I'm doing a chili cheese dog. Chili, cheese like the nacho cheese. Not, I mean, yes, I will do shredded cheddar if that's the only thing available. And onion. This is the way. This is the way. No ketchup ever, ever on a hot dog. I'm not anti-ketchup. I'm anti misappropriation of ketchup. And ketchup is for fries. And if you're a baby, you're Dino Nugs. That's it. That's it. And I guess meatloaf. And I don't really like meatloaf because I'm not a huge ketchup fan. So I know there are people who are like, well, you've not had my meatloaf. Well, you haven't invited me over. But if it's caked in ketchup, I'm not gonna like it. I'm just not. Now there's a guy, Gerderman, Tony, that's going to like it. I'm sure he's going to like it. Let me. I'm keeping an eye on some potential news on Twitter while I'm doing this. So bear with me as I'm trying to do 6 things at once. Just kind of the way things go. Mika said Queen City Mets. As for the game, the Holy Buckeye game. Obviously, that was a big one against Purdue in West Lafayette. That was, that's one to get indoctrinated with. Let me tell you. Florida Buckeye on the dogs. Hebrew National good, like Nathan's and Sabret too. I don't know if I've had a lot of Sabret myself, but if I had to guess, Damn it, you're going to make me go and grab them out of the fridge. Give me a second. I'm back. I'm back. Come on. Come back. Come back, camera. Give me a second. Let me get the camera to wake the hell up. Normal tracking. Hello. All right, note to self, don't ever do that again. Don't ever walk away from there. They are ballpark Angus. So that is what I have right now. I even have a can of Hormel chili so I can do chili dogs. I don't have the nacho cheese. I don't ever buy the nacho cheese in the can because while I could sit there and eat like a giant tray of nachos, I just don't think it's going to keep all that well. And I know the whole thing is chemicals. I'm not dumb. I know it's all chemicals, but I'm just kind of opposed to doing that. So, yeah, I just don't know. All right, there we go. I got the tracking back on. Let me keep scrolling through here, and I'm going to push this back up, see if the camera follows me. Come on, there you go. My first Ohio State game was West Virginia. Major Harris was a QB for them. I remember that game. I certainly remember that game. Major Harris also came to Columbus and was the quarterback for the arena team out at the old fairgrounds. I remember that one too. John says probably the national championship game versus Alabama in 2015 when they had Zeke. That was not the championship game. That was the semifinal game. That was the semifinal game. The championship game was against Oregon and an Oregon team that had Marcus Mariota. But for all intents and purposes, John's still not incorrect. That Alabama game was kind of everything. Ohio State beat Oregon, kind of beat the brakes off of them, and had 4 turnovers. Ohio State probably could have won that game by like 60, if we're being honest. Let's keep going through here. Similar here, Kevin. I grew up as a baseball fan first, then NFL. NCAA football was not big where I grew up. I didn't start college football until I moved here in '99. Obviously, what? God dang this camera! There, you stop it. All right. Yeah, you can't live here and not be a college football fan. Now, you may not be an Ohio State fan. If you're not an Ohio State fan, you're probably not watching this show. But yeah, let me just keep going through here. Mika said that basketball was her first love. Doug Shepard serves Hebrew Nationals. I mean, again, in a pinch, and I'm hungry right now, so that's something else I'm going to do. We're 3 minutes away from the hour. I'll probably push a little bit past the hour because I'm having fun. But you know what? If I go to somebody's house, I'm not going to be like, "What kind of hot dogs are you serving?" I only eat this one. The only thing I'm going to be bad about is I'm like, don't pre-dress my hot dog. If for every drop of ketchup I find on there, I'll kill you. I mean, I'm just not. I don't want ketchup on my hot dog. Is it because I've spent a lot of time in Chicago? No, I'm a mustard guy. That's what I like. Let me just keep going through here. Mika, chili cheese and mustard, absolutely. Honestly, all things considered, I could really go for some Skyline right now, just like 4 conies. 4 conies, and am I the only one pissed off that they went to Coke? And I'm Coke, not Pepsi. I like Coke. I don't like Pepsi. But Skyline, it hits different with Mountain Dew. Now I'm drinking like the blue Powerade, and it's fine, but it's not the same. I don't know. And the reality is that Coke is more expensive for a restaurant to serve whatever, equipment fees, licensing fees, however all that's determined. It's more expensive. So you see places more likely go from Coke to Pepsi. I'm waving my hands again, stop it, than Pepsi to Coke. So I don't know. I mean, obviously Skyline is a chain, a regional chain, but a chain nonetheless. I'm not sure how that worked out. Mozart's Ghost. I grew up in Youngstown. The Stoops brothers were a big deal. Daryl Clark was a classmate. He ended up at Penn State. I hear you there. I mean, obviously, the Youngstown Mafia is alive and real. Kevin, you're doing 6 things at once is why we watch you. You're the man. Thanks, Doug. Just kind of what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna. I'll say Doug's other comment about hot dogs being made of something in lips. I always heard that it was buttholes rather than another organ, but take it for what it's worth. Do I drink the hot dog water? No, but Knoxville, Tennessee smells like hot dog water. Why did I say that? I don't know, because I think it's true. Um Diamond Dog Night for the Clippers. Free or dirt cheap makes them taste better. Here's I my least favorite preparation of hot dog is boiled. Grilled is obviously number one. Flat top is two. Hell, I think I'd rather have one warmed under somebody's armpit than hot dog water. I just don't. And I know that you people are like, well, you just must not really want a hot dog then if you're not going to eat it the most, the preferred method of how it's prepared. But the reality is that I just not my. It's not the way that I enjoy it. But again, I'm probably, I've convinced myself I want hot dogs for dinner. What I should do, what I will do, be responsible, Kevin. Don't eat the leftover pizza. Just take a skillet and fry up a couple dogs and heat up the chili and have your chili dogs here. That's what I need to do. So I'm glad we can work that out together. I'm glad we can work that out together. That's why we're such a great team. That's why we're such a great team. You helped me get in touch with myself. Um, he was an exciting player, and Hakeem Nicks for North Carolina had his coming out party. I probably think I missed whatever the first. Oh, it was Pat White comment. I saw Pat White play his last college game in the Meineke Care Bowl in Charlotte. So that's where the Hakeem Nicks is from. Whoops, John agrees that boiled dogs are nasty. It's just not my favorite way. It won't stop me, but what I won't be doing is boiling hot dogs here. I'm going to cook them in a frying pan as Jesus intended. I'm okay with different ways to heat them. I eat them plain though, maybe cheese, no ketchup, no mustard. I can respect that. I can respect it now. Not the way I want to do it, but I can respect the hustle. Uh, David Whalen, PepsiCo owns KFC and Pizza Hut, so perhaps Skyline wants to avoid them just because of that. But just a guess, yeah, I do know that Yum Brands, and even with all of that, there was a change with what Yum Brands and like moving out of Louisville or something. It's bad when a fat guy like me follows food news too closely. Oh, okay, fatty, but I don't know. I just know that I read about it on Twitter, and whenever anybody tweets about Skyline, don't do this because I'm doing hot dogs at home tonight. Um, when I read about Skyline, I generally am in Skyline within the next 24 hours, so they know what they're doing there. John wants to know if I think Urban Meyer will coach again. He's so good at TV, and Jacksonville was such an awful situation. That was so predictable that Jacksonville wasn't going to work out. I would like to see him not coach again, but never say never. Bill Belichick going to date a 24-year-old. I didn't have that on my bingo card until I did. Got a couple more comments, and we're going to call it a show. Heat up dogs, cut them up, and put them on the leftover pizza. Blech. Should I put some pineapple on there too while I'm at it? How about some dirt? That just sounds terrible. And I know you're being funny. Well, I hope you're being funny. Maybe I should put some. Maybe I should put some like baked beans on there too. Gross. Ugh. I was a teen. Well, all right. All right. There are two comments, and then I'm going to call it unless the super chat keeps me here longer. When I was a teenager, when the home microwave came out, so if it wasn't grilled hot dogs, they were boiled. And I know for a fact I ate grilled hot dogs. My dad traveled 200 days a year, so my mom wasn't going to go out and fire up the grill. They were either it was either frying pan or it was going to be boiled. Honestly, I think we had more fish sticks. Not, do you like fish sticks? We had more fish sticks and chicken tenders and mac and cheese as little kid meals for me than it was hot dogs, if I remember right. When I lived in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there was a gourmet dog place called Senior Wiener. The commercials were hilarious. For those of you in Columbus, Dirty Frank's is really good. Sometimes I feel it's a little too bougie, but I do again, handing out all the respect today. I respect the creativity of the menu. Uh, John says that's nasty Bill with Jordan Hudson. I mean, she's just. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna get sued. Not that she knows what I'm doing here in this show, but she seems like a piece of work. Love you too, Mika. Have a good one. Take care, all. And Doug Shepard. I will Google that after Kevin's show. Hopefully, there are some on there. And thanks for the show. Now, what I want everybody to do, if you haven't yet, even if you have, check out over here on the channel, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle, my Buc-ee's piece. It's the fastest 19 minutes and 55 seconds you'll ever spend in your life. That's what she said. To check out everything that we did there at the Buc-ee's. I had a lot of fun, a lot of pop culture references that I dropped into it in terms of the editing. Check it out there. Sign up to Buckeye Huddle. Buck CC said he was going to do it. I'm sure he has. He man of his word, or woman. I don't know. I don't know if who, it doesn't say on here what anybody's, gender is or whatever. But regardless, check us out, Buckeye Huddle. But I'm gonna do something different, so don't freak out. This is for the replay version. I want to thank everybody for watching us. Check out the rest of our videos here at the channel, the Big Me Kickoff, as well as everything that Tom, Tony, and everybody else puts on. But until next time, I'll talk to you very soon.